during your time.
Lie. It's a blue lie, what Commissioner Malema.
No, but don't say I'm lying. What do you mean I'm lying?
It's a lie.
No,
It's
don't
a
say
lie.
I'm lying. That is disrespectful.
No,
to say
lying.
I'm lying, it's disrespectful.
But
if you are going to allow him to say I'm lying, it's wrong. You see?
The Judicial Services Commission has put forward a nomination for the position of Chief Justice. Judge Maya is the official recommendation, but the Helen Suzman Foundation is concerned with the nomination process, which was fraught with drama. Joining me to discuss is Chelsea Ramsden. She is a senior legal researcher with the Helen Suzman Foundation. So Chelsea, what are some of the HSF's concerns with the way that this Chief Justice nomination process went about?
When it came down to the Judicial Service Commission having to conduct its interviews and make a recommendation to the president, I think that's where everything sort of fell apart. The JSC started off on an okay note with Justice Madlanga on Tuesday, and it just seemed to go downhill from there. President Maya faced very gender-based questions, nothing too serious on her behalf. But by the time we got to Judge President Mlambo on Thursday, that's where the cracks started to show in the JSC and the way that they were handling themselves. They asked him a number of questions and on allegations that weren't put to him before the process had started. And in order for a candidate to have to answer such questions on allegations, particularly on the seriousness of the ones that he had to answer on, the rules or the procedure rules of the JSC says that they have to put this to the candidate beforehand so they can prepare for the matter. And then following from that, we had Acting Chief Justice Zondo on Friday, and that was just the political mayhem. I mean, there was no real questions. It was political at the best and run by certain political members.
We saw a very heated spat between Julius Malema, the leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters, and Ronald Lamola, the Justice Minister. So bringing some of their own political conflicts into this space, which is really intended purely for the appointment of the Chief Justice. So quite a spectacle there. But also, I think what's very interesting about this is that this is the first time that the president has appointed this committee to nominate the CJ. In the past, presidents would just put forward their preferred candidate. So do you think that there is a problem here of over-consultation and proceduralism on behalf of the president?
Well, one of the concerns that were raised after he announced the process, and this was when he first appointed that shortlisting panel that went through all the submissions, the nominations, objections, and they came up with a short list of names, which then went to the president. He shortlisted again, then sent those nominations to the Judicial Service Commission, who then asked the public again to send in objections. So we were duplicating processes, and considering we didn't have a permanent Chief Justice at the time, we had an acting Chief Justice, and it's been a while now. Those things could have been streamlined a bit better. There was no need to duplicate the process. I do think that the fact that we had some public consultation, particularly by allowing the public to submit nominations or comment on the candidacy of them, is a good thing, because before that, although the president will always retain the power in terms of the Constitution to appoint the Chief Justice, often what happens is the president decides on one person and then they just go through a JSC interview as well. But I mean, once there's only one person, how can you really say that there's much selection procedure happening or much vetting?
All right, so the Helen Suzman Foundation is considering legal action to challenge this nomination process. My understanding is you don't have any grievance with the candidate, Maya, who's been put forward, but you're concerned about the procedural irregularities that preceded this decision. Could you comment a bit more on what your intentions are?
So we are considering our options at the moment. Given what went down at the Judicial Service Commission interviews, I think we can safely say that they could be set aside on review without much effort. All the candidates themselves are of a good caliber. So it's not about them as candidates. It was about the procedure, as you said, that was used to appoint or to nominate them or for the JSC to recommend them. We are, as I say, considering a review. We're not it's a discussion that's happening with our lawyers and internally as well. We would just like the best outcome. So whatever's just. So whether that means redoing the interviews, which in itself comes with its own concerns, considering that the Judicial Service Commission has already redone interviews for the Constitutional Court justices last year. I mean, this doesn't create a good image or look for the judiciary, and it's not even the judiciary's fault.
Yeah, and could you comment also on the integrity of the JSC itself? Because, I mean, with the appointments for the recent vacancies for justices of the court, thinking particularly of Justice Unterhalter, there was a lot of grandstanding, a lot of racial rhetoric thrown his way. And it seems that this body has become overly politicized. Is there a way of potentially reforming the JSC to make it maybe perhaps more in line with the needs of the legal industry rather than beholden to political interests?
Well, that's something that I've been working on considerably for the last year and a bit that I've been at the HSF. I definitely do think there's an overabundance of politicians on the body. I think that they run the show, and unfortunately, politicians don't know what is required of a judge and what judges need to do. So for them to be the majority voice on the body, it doesn't make sense that they are then the nominating body. It's in the Constitution. The composition of the Judicial Service Commission is in the Constitution, and it dictates the amount of politicians on it. However, last year, during Parliament put out a request for submissions on the annual review of the Constitution, and the Helen Suzman Foundation actually made submissions on changing that section of the Constitution to reduce the number of political members on that body.
Yeah, I think some political oversight is perhaps necessary, but this preponderance of politicians. But as you say, that would necessitate a constitutional amendment.
Yeah. There
have been, about 18 constitutional amendments since 1996, promulgation of the Constitution. But that would be perhaps a small administrative change that would unlock greater value in terms of the JSC and its conduct.
Well, yeah, I definitely think it would assist in that regard. And even the National Development Plan mentions the fact that it's over-politicized, that there actually are too many political members and too many members in general. It's a 23-member body on a normal day, 25 on other days, if it involves a province. So for that instance, there's a lot of voices to be heard. And there are still ways of having the different sectors of society and interests represented without having to have everyone on board there.
Okay, and in terms of potential litigation, I know you're just in the consultation and deliberation phase, but potentially that could be something that could go before the Constitutional Court itself if it went through the necessary channels. Do you not think that there could be a potential conflict there that many of the judges would be making this decision on potentially their future boss, their future Chief Justice? Could that not pose a bit of a legal quandary for those judges?
Of course, those concerns will always be there. However, the Constitutional Court justices have always had to, or have in the past had to, adjudicate on cases involving members of their bench. And the decision of who to appoint goes to the president in the end. So they wouldn't actually be choosing. They would just be declaring on whether the process of the Judicial Service Commission was rational or not, and whether it should be redone or done in a different way, or how things should be done that way. So they wouldn't actually be deciding who their boss is. Obviously, Justice Madlanga would have to recuse himself. Acting Chief Justice Zondo would have to recuse himself. At the moment, Judge President Mlamba is actually acting at the Constitutional Court as well, but the process would probably be slow enough that he would be gone by the time it arrives on that bench, if it arrives on that bench. Obviously, that would be an appeal after an appeal if it was a thing.
Chelsea Ramsden, thank you very much for joining us on the CRA. Let's hand over to you, our viewers. Do you think that President Ramaphosa should accept the nomination of Mandisa Maya to be the next Constitutional Court Chief Justice? Leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Also, a quick reminder that we at the CRA are looking for an analyst to join our team. So if you enjoy politics, economics, and risk in South Africa, do get in touch with us with a copy of your CV, some writing samples, and ideally a 60-second video clip of your take on the risks facing South Africa. Our email address is in the description as well as the pinned comment. My name is David Ansara. This is the CRA. Until next time, take care.